Yeah, I lost my shirt because I have a bunk bed now, and a bunk bed means
A
for
shelf for
me?
clothes.
A giant shelf for whatever I want. It's I can clean my room so fast you can't believe it.
Yes. And simultaneously unmake a bed.
Yeah, but the mound that I'm looking at right now would be embarrassing for anyone other than me.
Dave, it's Mount Dave Moore. It's too bad you didn't get the full bed, eh?
Oh man, it's a good thing. I would never get it clean.
You'd never be able to reach all the stuff.
I already can't. I was like, I lost my shirt. Oh, there it is, way back there, because I just flung it,
I bought those
and I forgot. I even forgot doing it. I was like, what did I do with that thing? It
bought
was
those
right here.
5 shirts, and I have 2 of them. Some of them are hidden on a bed.
I bought 5 shirts because I'm thinking to myself, I need shirts. Meanwhile, I bet you if I search through my clothes, I already have a bunch of shirts. They're somewhere up there.
Yes.
It's not good. I need help.
So,
Can you see my shirt?
I do see your shirt.
Isn't that cool?
It's cool. My daughter loves tie dye. So when I first saw it, I saw just a tie dye shirt. But now that I've been looking, I see that there is an enormous yellow cross on it.
Yeah. So have you ever seen these ads on Facebook that you're scrolling through Facebook and they've got ads on it, or is your Facebook not full of
No,
those?
it's full of ads.
Yeah.
Full of ads.
But they have these random things where they have these companies, and they always have like some random, crazy, unique product.
Okay.
And so they had this one where there's all these guys, wearing these cool shirts, and a lot of them were kind of faith based, but they weren't cheesy.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I clicked on it, and then I'm seeing all these shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were cheap. They were like 15, 16 bucks for all these very unique designs. I liked them. And then they had also like, the more you buy, the more you get off. So
Yeah.
I was like,
Can't afford not to buy them.
yeah, I was like, well, I got to buy 5 because that's 40% off instead of, 35% off or whatever. So I bought like 5 or 6 new shirts. I kind of went crazy, and I paid for it. And then I don't know, I was like getting, all of a sudden, because I paid for these things, of course, all the ad trackers, they're like, oh, this guy likes this kind of thing. So they
Bad Facebook. Bad.
Yeah. So now all my
Down.
my Facebook is filled with like clothing, Christian clothing, but not just filled with various Christian clothing.
Okay.
The exact same Christian clothing with the exact same models under a totally different company.
Yes.
And I was like, uh-oh, this is a scam. And I thought for sure it was a scam because I've been scammed before.
It happened once.
Yeah, they had one where it was like this electric surfboard, and you couldn't believe the video. It was this amazing electric surfboard, and it was like $300 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, holy cow, that's amazing. For $300, shoot, I'm right on the beach. I'll go play with that all the time. So I paid for it, and then nothing came.
Ever?
Nothing ever came. And I looked it up, and the same video advertising, the same exact video that was on their store's website, was on another website where they're actually selling it, and it's $5,000. So
Oh,
of course I feel stupid because I'm looking at this $5,000 machine and it says $300. I didn't think it was going to be as good as what they made it look like, but I was like, I'm just curious what comes. I mean, for $300, I'll go out there and just splish splash and make a funny video and be like, look at this cheesy piece of junk. But I imagined I would have a thing to play with. Nope, nothing.
nothing.
The company was a total scam. You look it up, the numbers didn't work, the website didn't link to anything. It linked to some other clothing thing. It was total scam.
And they were advertising on Facebook?
Yes.
Really?
And as soon as I bought that, I saw that same surfboard. The reason why I thought that same surfboard came a million times under a whole bunch of different companies.
Okay.
And I took a whole bunch of screenshots and I was like, Facebook, what the heck, man? I didn't get a response. They said that they do not violate the terms of service. It's like, well, they should because they don't actually sell a product. But
and did you ever get your money back or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, well.
I may have. I think I might have through my credit card, but definitely not from that company.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I thought the t-shirts were going to be a scam. I ordered these 3 or 4 weeks ago, but they actually showed up.
Hey.
I was like, all right. Even though there's websites you can look at for that company and people are like, scam. I was like, darn it.
For the t-shirts, it says scam?
I found some.
Really?
I found some. It wasn't the one that I bought from, but it was another one that had the exact same pictures and models and everything like that. When I looked up the one I bought it from, it just said, this company is way too brand new. It was like created a month ago.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, not good. But they came. And so
That's cool.
I'm going to have some new, I've been basically rotating the same 5 shirts for our entire show.
Oh, okay.
And so I'll have some new ones.
Very cool.
Isn't that cool?
Very cool. Yeah.
It's what all the people have been asking for. So I really
tie-dyed shirts.
I did it. It wasn't just an impulse buy for myself. I did it for, you and the viewer.
Yes. Yes. I needed it. And
You're
that's
welcome.
what I needed.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm a giver. Well, I'm excited for Romans 12 because Romans 12, this is chock full of good stuff.
It is. And we even broke it down really nicely, small chunks, so we can really get into it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for doing that, too.
Yeah.
Well, it is good. It is good not to read for 45 minutes and then try and remember everything we covered. So we have learned that lesson.
Yes.
So where are we at today?
We're Romans 12, 1 through 2.
Oh, nice.
All right. This is a living sacrifice to God. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind that he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then, when you learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. All right. Romans 12, 1 through 2. I think this is what I was talking about. I think this is where it gets into sort of understanding, having that closeness with God so that you can deal with trouble.
Yeah, I saw that when you were reading, and I wondered if maybe.
I think this is it. So, yeah. So it's interesting because you read this and, well, I think that the key here when you read this is that you think about the living sacrifice. But this is one of those verses where it sort of has a cascading effect, like the other verse that I like. All right. And so this is the pattern I see. You say, you consider everything that God's done for you. All right. So when you consider everything that God's done for us, died on the cross, creating us, putting our lives in order, all the blessings that he's given us. And so we worship him. But then how do we worship him? Like, what's the proper way to worship God? And it's by giving yourself as a living sacrifice. And it's a holy sacrifice. And it's something that God finds acceptable, which is cool because in the Old Testament, when you would sacrifice to God, it would sometimes say that God found the sacrifice acceptable. All right. It was pleasing. It was a pleasing scent to God. So, but you're actually sacrificing yourself as a living sacrifice. And then because of that sacrifice, God will transform you into a new person who thinks differently. And I think that's where the key is. That transformation, when you're offering yourself as a sacrifice, you get transformed into this new person who thinks differently. And the way you think differently is then you will know God's will for your life. And, people all the time are always saying, oh man, I wish I knew God's will for my life. Wouldn't it be great if we knew God's will for my life? And I think that it appears that Romans 12:1 and 2 is telling you exactly how to go about doing that.
Yeah, that's really good. Whenever I hear this, I've always heard this as used as a way to basically just attack your vices.
Okay.
Like, hey, give your bodies to God. Your body's a temple. So, don't smoke, drink, sex. That's the reason why we don't do bad things. But
Gotcha.
This seems, when I'm reading it now, it sounds like deeper. Because it's like, I wonder if that word bodies is more like your whole self, like everything that you are. It's not just your outside behavior, but it's giving up everything that you are. And don't conform to the behavior and customs of this world. Everything that people are doing, the culture, if you are paying attention, you're going to be countercultural, and it doesn't matter what culture you're in.
Yeah.
And but let God transform you into a new person, not because you're doing the right thing, but it says into a new person by changing the way you think. And that's cool because it says God does that. Because it's very hard to decide to change the way you think, because the way you think is the way you think. And so in order for you to change that, what tools do you have other than the way you think already?
Yep.
To change the way you think is kind of outside your scope.
Wheelhouse.
Yeah. It's like, well, there's got to be a great analogy for that, because, how do you change the thing that you are? Then you will learn God's will for you. And so I think you're exactly right. There is a sequence. And the idea of, oh, wouldn't it be great to know God's will for me? It's like, well, yeah, wouldn't it be great to already be, at the part where you're vacuuming and dusting your room? Yeah, but you have all kinds of clothes and dishes and garbage to pick up first. So it's kind of like, yeah, it would be nice to know what God's will is, but that's sort of the step 2.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, do you think that you would have read this differently a year ago than how you read it now? And how does that... So a year ago, when you sort of recommitted yourself to Christ, I feel like this is a big part of what that realization was.
Yeah. On one hand, I almost feel like I'm reading everything different than a year ago.
Yeah.
Which is good. The second thing is my perspective and understanding of what it is to become a Christian even though I already was one, I didn't understand exactly all that it entails. And the idea of, well, you've got to give up everything. You can't have anything that you are pursuing as a primary goal. You know, it's all in. You've got to go to the cross and say, I'm accepting the cross with you. I'm going to accept that this world is temporary and I'm not going to live for it. And I'm going to give my life over to you so that you can live through me. As much as I can let go, I surrender that.
Yeah.
And you know, the picture of that, I don't even know if I even used any new words, but the picture that is in my mind is so different than the picture that I'm always told when we talk about, well, what must you do to be saved? Well, just believe that he died on the cross and he'll save you from your sins. You can go to heaven forever. It's like, well, that's nice. Here's a thing I've got to kind of grasp. It's more of an intellectual endeavor. And then in the practical sense, it was like, oh, I have to let go of a lot of things that I'm clinging to very hard. And that is different. So when I read this now, I'm looking at it saying, oh, yeah, a year ago when it says give your bodies to God, I'm just thinking of a physical body. And it's like all of my own dreams, goals, future desires, everything I'm working towards, everything I'm clinging to, well, that's all still mine. But in the body, you know, we shouldn't be smoking. You know, it's like just don't do the bad things.
Yeah.
That we're always tempted to do. But now when I read it and it's like, yeah, as a living and holy sacrifice, what's a sacrifice? It's the thing that gets killed. It loses its life. And so as a living sacrifice is almost a bit of a oxymoron, or they're almost opposites, but that's what he's trying to convey is you're still alive technically.
Yep.
But you're not. Inside, you've put that person, you've nailed him to a cross.
Yeah. And I mean, you consider the idea of baptism, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea of baptism is you're dying and rising again. It's representing resurrection. It's being born again, right? Like it's in everything we're reading. This idea that you're sort of dying to the old self and you're a new person. You're going to be renewed in body and mind. And it's a welcome thought. It's a difficult thought, but it's welcome. I want to experience, to the extent I can, this idea. I want to be transformed. I want to hear the will of God. And it's an exciting thought.
I tell you what, though, when I really believe that if you understand if you really understood this, what it means to be a living sacrifice, I think that the natural response when you're encountered with the idea is fear. Because you're going to realize this is going to cost, and this is going to be potentially very uncomfortable. And you don't exactly know what is on the other side. You can read about it and you can imagine it, but really, God makes us jump first. He makes us jump with both feet on the idea that first you accept your cross. You accept that you deserve worse and that your life isn't worth anything to you because you can't do anything with it. And so you're going to give it to him, and whatever he says to do, you're going to obey. And you don't know what he's going to say. And what he's going to say is most likely, 100% certainly, going to tell you to change some things. And a lot of the things isn't going to be, oh yeah, and also that thing you really don't want to do anyway, that's all I've got. No, there's going to be some stuff that you really do want to do. There's going to be some money that you really want to spend somewhere else. There's going to be, plans that you have that you're going to go, oh, I can't do that anymore. So you have to go, am I really going to give up all this stuff that I am and all my friends that I might, that this might separate? It's terrifying. But on the other side, he gives you himself, but you just can't get that first to know what it's not like a trade where you're doing it at the exact same time. It's like, no, you got to go first. Yeah. And when I saw it, my thought was, I don't know if I'm ever going to be at this crossroads again. And number two, I was like, I think the next day, one of the first things I thought is, oh my goodness, no wonder it's a narrow road that very few people find. Because who in their right mind is going to do that? Like, who's going to naturally come to the conclusion that you've got to give up everything and surrender to this invisible Holy Spirit that you haven't experienced yet?
Yeah.
It's very, you go, well, no kidding. Everybody's trying to get what they can from the church experience. And when they get the warm fuzzies, it confirms that they're on the right road, but nobody's looking at it going, oh, this is, becoming a Christian is not like joining a club. It's a lot more like getting married. And the initiation is you kill yourself. You let yourself die. Or you not die, but you give up. Death is a great example because you think everything old is put away. But it is kind of like getting married in that whatever your single life was in the apartment with your friends doing whatever, now once you get married, it's like all that is kind of no longer primary. You might be able to still do some things, but it's not the same as it was when you were just a single person bouncing around doing whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right on. And so earlier you were talking about you were losing sleep. And does this shed any light on that for you? Does this have any practical application for you?
I think so. It's difficult because
Here, let me put you in an awkward position where I ask you a question you don't know it's coming, and then ask for 3 examples.
I love it. I'm always down for that, because what we want to do is take something practical, and so where does the rubber meet the road for me? I would guess that I'm still sometimes get caught up in the things that I still love and the things that I still like and want to have for me. And when I feel like that's not available, or it's not something like God is saying, no, the right response is, okay, Daddy, move on and find a new toy.
Yeah.
That's not the television set. But if you sit there and just stare at the television knob the whole time going, I'm not allowed to touch it, but it's the only thing I care about. then in a way, I wonder if maybe I'm making it harder on myself by doing something like that instead of just transitioning and saying, well, yes, everybody knows what you want. And now, because you asked, everybody knows what God wants. So, why don't you stop staring at it?
Yeah.
Because it's what are you going to do?
This is what my experience is with that sort of thing. There's been times over the last year for sure where I felt like God has put it on my heart that I need to focus on this, and this needs to go. And in those times, it was really hard. Do you remember last year there was a TV show that I felt like God was asking me to stop to watch.
Oh,
So-
yeah. That was a TV show that God did not ask me to stop watching, I think.
Well, yeah, and it's like I was sitting there thinking, it's Game of Thrones, right? And Game of Thrones had been on for so many seasons, and it's not a great show. Like when I felt like God saying, "Hey, you should probably stop watching that," I wasn't sitting there thinking, "What? Why, God? Like this is such a great show. It's very wholesome." But
Yeah. It's a total mystery why we shouldn't watch that.
But when I heard God say that, and I thought to myself, I don't watch TV. I don't watch TV very often. And the story was, it was going places, and I was kind of interested in seeing where it went the last season. And I felt like God saying, "Nah, you don't need that." And I remember at that time thinking, "Oh, this is tough." Like every week it was coming out. People are having parties. People are talking about it at work. And I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh man, I really wish I could be watching that." But I just decide, no, this is something I'm handing to God. I'm giving this to God. It's a sacrifice. And it wasn't that big of a sacrifice, but in the moment it felt like I was giving up a lot. And then what's ironic is evidently I still don't know exactly what went on, but evidently people were very unhappy with the last season of Game of Thrones, and it was kind of funny because it was like, "Oh, well, thanks God." Like I didn't even have to put up with that. So, and now I think to myself, it's like, no, I don't even care about the silly show, right? Like that doesn't even interest me. So I think that's where it's at. I think when we're giving up things for God, in the moment, it feels like something real, like Jesus going into the wilderness and for us, we think, well, Jesus is God. He didn't have to eat, or he didn't have to drink, or who cares if he jumps off the temple? But it must have been some level of temptation for him, because if it wasn't, like, why bother? Like, what's the temptation? He's not being tested if he already has all the answers. But Jesus was tempted, and they were things that he was probably actually struggling with. It doesn't matter if he's God, if he's human and he's not able to eat, he's not able to drink, and he's being tempted with the idea of drinking and eating, that's going to be real. It's going to be real. And I think that's how we do it. A TV show it's next to nothing in the big scheme of things, but I think that's where it's at. When you are trusting God and having faith in God in little things, he's developing you into someone that will be transformed, that you are giving yourself as a living sacrifice, and you are developing an understanding of the will of God. And I think that little decision to stop watching Game of Thrones has impacted me in so many more ways throughout the last year. And it just feels like, okay, I can do that. I can do this in a lot of ways. And nothing was as cut and dry as that one, but it's like I feel myself going towards things that, like reading my Bible daily, and doing other things with my time that's really benefiting me. So,
well, I will say that was, I guess that was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. So it was, I was in a different spot. But when you told me that, even though, granted, giving up a television show might not seem like a huge thing to have to put on the altar, I will say that I was impressed because, I mean, I wanted to watch it. I mean, we're all 6 years invested, and now this is the culmination of the whole thing we've been watching since like 2013 or something, or 12. And I was watching you, and I thought with talking to you, I really did think he's going to watch it. I mean, he's on this new kick, and he's like, he's going extreme, But basically, common sense is going to take over. It'll reel back, and he'll go, it's fine. And so, but you didn't. And I'll just tell you as an outsider, I was watching you, expecting you to watch it. And when you didn't, it was a pretty good testimony to me, actually. I was thinking, well, we're in different spots. Because I remember thinking, shoot, I was the extreme opposite. I've got groups of people coming over to watch it in a big party. Like, we're celebrating this instead of questioning it.